The NFL offseason has only just begun. First up, it's free agency, where plenty of teams will be making it rain on them free agents. Some of these guys will get grossly overpaid, while others could end up being steals of the century. We're here to figure out which players will fall into which category, as we predict the overpaid and underpaid players from this year's NFL free agent market. Number 5, overpaid. Joe Thuney. There's a long list of former New England Patriots stars who failed to match their production once they left Foxborough. When it comes to offensive linemen, look no further than Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney was one of the NFL's most productive guards during his time in New England, but we've seen this story too many times. He'll get paid thanks to the fortunes of playing for the greatest coach of all time. Then Thuney will struggle to adjust to a new team with a different run-blocking scheme. GMs seem to always forget this, so watch Thuney get paid north of $10 million annually on a long-term deal. Number 5, underpaid. Corey Linsley, the 2014 fifth-round draft pick, came out of nowhere and enjoyed a breakout season for the Green Bay Packers in 2020. Linsley, a key cog in Aaron Rodgers' MVP season, earned a first-team All-Pro selection for his efforts. He allowed just 1 sack all season without taking a single penalty, according to Pro Football Focus. PFF graded Linsley as the NFL's best center. He excelled as a pass protector, but even more so as a run blocker, helping Aaron Jones turn in another dominant season. But unfortunately for Linsley, he's likely going to have to settle on something well below market value. That's because the 2021 free agent class is absolutely loaded with top-tier offensive linemen. The class is highlighted by future Hall of Famer Trent Williams. You also have guys like Joe Thuney and studs coming out of this year's draft. It's safe to guess that at least 3 other free agent offensive linemen will get paid more than Linsley, who only broke out at the age of 29. I'll tell you one thing though, the team that pays Linsley will end up with quite the bargain deal. Number 4, overpaid. Anthony Harris. Several teams have to address the secondary this offseason. That bodes well for the top available defensive backs because many of them are bound to get paid far more than what they're actually worth. Minnesota Vikings safety Anthony Harris is a year removed from a 6-interception season. He's also racked up 17 passes defended over the past 2 seasons. Those stats are going to catch the eyes of GMs once the market opens. But if you take a closer look at the numbers, you'll see why teams should think twice about giving Harris a lucrative contract. Yeah, he had 6 interceptions in 2019. In his other 5 NFL seasons, Harris had combined for 3 picks, and all those came in 2018. So there isn't much consistency there. Secondly, Harris hasn't really been all that stellar in coverage. According to Pro Football Reference, he's allowed 21 completions on 36 targets for 262 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2020. Harris's play was otherworldly in 2019, but he regressed notably in 2020, and he didn't have much of an impact during his first 4 seasons in the league either. So we'd be very careful about handing out a massive contract to a guy who's had 1 good season in 6 years. But we've seen this happen way too many times. Some GM out there will probably give him a 5 to 6 year deal worth over $10 million annually. Number 4, underpaid. Corey Davis. The number 5 overall selection of the 2017 NFL Draft had 2 lackluster seasons and 2 very productive seasons. Fortunately, the second productive season just happened, so that should lead to a nice payday for him in free agency. Davis is coming off his best season yet, notching 65 catches for 984 yards and 5 touchdowns, leading the Tennessee Titans to their first AFC South Division title in 12 years. The only problem with Davis? This is an incredibly deep wide receiver free agent class. That probably means you'll have to accept a below market value deal. When all is said and done, it shouldn't be surprising if he had to settle on a short-term deal with the idea of resetting his value for 2022 or 2023. Davis looks like he has the potential to be a number 1 receiver for his next team, but expect him to be paid more like a number 2. Number 3, overpaid. Aaron Jones. Teams haven't really learned their lesson. Don't overpay for running backs. Even after guys like Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, and Todd Gurley flopped after their big deals, it still didn't stop Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, and Dalvin Cook from landing massive extensions last year. So, yeah, you can bet the Packers running back Aaron Jones stands to land a lucrative deal worth $10 million or more annually. This is a guy who recorded 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons with 25 total touchdowns over that span, and Jones contributes aplenty in the passing game as well. But running backs are just too easy to replace these days. It's not hard to find a reliable 1,000-yard rusher. Does the team that ends up paying Jones want to risk messing up their cap situation like the Rams did with Gurley or the Cowboys with Zeke? Jones should have no problem getting a deal in the range of $40 million to $50 million over 5 years. Watch it happen. Then watch as whoever gives him his next contract goes on to regret it. Number 3, underpaid. Melvin Ingram. The 3-time Pro Bowler had a forgettable season in his contract year. Injuries limited Ingram to 7 games, and he didn't record any sacks. The lost season, coupled with the fact he's about to enter his age 32 campaign, means one thing. Ingram isn't going to receive the money he's worth. A healthy Ingram is a threat for double-digit sacks. He recorded 7+ in 5 consecutive seasons, including 10.5 sack campaigns in 2015 and 2017. In other words, the guy has plenty more to give. It's unlikely that the Los Angeles Chargers will pay top dollar to retain their star pass rusher, not with Joey Bosa and Keenan Allen now on hefty deals, and Justin Herbert not far away from a monster extension. Ingram is likely looking at a short-term deal, 1 or 2 or 3 years, and likely less than $10 million a year. If he hit the open market a year ago, a $50 million plus deal wouldn't have been out of the question at all. We can envision a scenario where Ingram takes a cheap 1-year pact with a contender like the Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs, or Green Bay Packers, with the hope of landing a more lucrative contract next year. Teams shouldn't hesitate to pay Ingram what he's worth, because he is a total game changer when healthy. But NFL GMs don't always work like that, so expect Ingram to come out of free agency with a rather cheap deal. Number 2, overpaid. Matthew Judon. There's a trend where defensive standouts on the Baltimore Ravens get overpaid and fail to live up to their contracts once they leave. See Donnell Ellerbe with the Miami Dolphins, Paul Kruger with the Cleveland Browns, and CJ Mosley with the New York Jets, for example. Rival GMs often just look at the player's production without realizing that the Ravens are just that good at making the most of their talent on defense. So why would it be different for someone like Matthew Judon, who played out the 2020 season under the franchise tag? The cap-strapped Ravens will likely let Judon walk, knowing they can easily draft a suitable replacement. Judon has recorded 6+ sacks in 4 straight seasons. In 2019, he set a career high with 9.5 to go along with 4 forced fumbles. Thing is, again, the Ravens simply know how to maximize Judon's skill set. If a mediocre rebuilding club like the Jets, Atlanta Falcons, or Jacksonville Jaguars throw a lot of money at Judon, well, that just has disaster written all over it. You can't just expect a guy to come into a new system and excel right off the bat. Judon's best bet would be to stay in Baltimore, but their salary cap situation makes that unlikely. So don't be surprised when someone overpays for him. Number 2, underpaid. Yannick Ngakoue. Ngakoue's production speaks for itself. 45.5 total sacks in 78 NFL games over 5 seasons. He hasn't finished with fewer than 8 in a single season. That's consistency, folks. However, it feels like Ngakoue stands to be paid less than he likely deserves. He had 5 sacks in only 6 games with the Vikings before getting traded to the Ravens, where he struggled with just 3 sacks in 9 games. The pedestrian performance in Baltimore may affect Ngakoue's production a bit. Even the Jaguars got a disappointing return from the Vikings when they traded him last offseason, and Baltimore only had to give up a 3rd and conditional 5th rounder for him. If Ngakoue isn't going to score much in not 1 but 2 trades, will he really get the massive payday he's probably hoping for in free agency? This just looks like a scenario where he takes a 1-year deal with the intention of upping his value for the 2022 free agency. Let's see if he bets on himself with the goal of increasing his price tag next year. Number 1. Overpaid. JUJU Smith-Schuster. Smith-Schuster was the Pittsburgh Steelers' leading receiver in 2018. So, when Antonio Brown was traded in the ensuing offseason, most of us expected the former to take his game to another level. It hasn't happened. Rather than build off his breakout sophomore campaign, Smith-Schuster has proven that he's just more like a number 2 receiver. In 2019, he caught just 42 passes for 552 yards and 3 touchdowns in 12 games. In 2020, with Ben Roethlisberger back in the fold, Smith-Schuster had 97 receptions for 831 yards and 9 touchdowns. Not bad, but not great either. He's a solid route runner who can work the middle of the field, but you're not talking about a true game-changing threat. He struggles with drops and ball security, having fumbled 5 times over the last 3 years. Plenty of teams are desperate for receiving help. Teams who miss out on other top free agent wideouts will happily pay Smith-Schuster number 1 receiver money. But after 4 seasons, it's pretty clear he's not worth it. Number 1, underpaid. Richard Sherman. One of the best cornerbacks of his era, Richard Sherman continues to play at a high level well into his 30s. Playing a dominant All-Pro season with the Niners in 2019, Sherman experienced a bit of a setback in 2020, playing in just 5 games as a result of injury. But don't kid yourself, folks. This guy still has a lot left in the tank. Sherman will be 33 years old when the 2021 season kicks off, which should allow whoever signs him in free agency to do so at a bargain rate. The 5-time Pro Bowler is at a point in his career where he seems content with signing team-friendly 1- or 2-year deals with legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And while I wouldn't go so far as to assume he'll play for free for his next team, you can bet they'll be paying a very reasonable price for one of the game's elite defenders. Sherman's last contract with the Niners was a 3-year deal worth just over $27 million. It worked out to be a smidge over $9 million per season, which is pennies for a player of this caliber. With well over a dozen cornerbacks set to make north of $10 million in 2021, if any team can get Sherman to sign a similar deal to the one he had in San Fran, it could easily be the best bargain of the 2021 free agency. But hey, what other free agents will be overpaid or underpaid? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.